This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. An extensive ground and air search operation has been underway today in the foothills of Mount Wellington, with police finding a clue as they search for a missing Moona man. He was last seen on Friday, but today authorities found his car near bushland at Lenna Valley. Our reporter Louise Hedger is at that location and joins us now live. Louise, good evening. Has anything else been found yet?
Joe, as far as we're aware, there's been no trace found of Elson Kittle just yet, with more than 50 people searching the bushland around me here at Lenna Valley today. Earlier this morning, a neighbour on this street called police and said they'd found his car. That sparked the extensive search effort. Let's see how today unfolded. The loved ones of Elson Kittle joining authorities to try and help find him. At 11 o'clock Friday morning, the 70-year-old man left the family home at West Moona to go and play golf. That was the last time his wife saw him.
The family expected him home once he'd concluded golf on the Friday, and he never returned.
Early this morning, 3 days later, his ute was found here on Lumia Avenue in Lenna Valley. That finding triggered a significant response from authorities, with resources immediately deployed, searching a 4-kilometre radius in the foothills of Mount Wellington. A specialised police and SES rescue team, including quads and motorbikes, combing the area, with family assisting the efforts. A volunteer with a trained sniffer dog picking up his scent from Mr Kittle's ute, with the Westpac rescue helicopter flying low, circling for an hour and a half.
If Mr Kittle has suffered an injury while bushwalking, then obviously we'd rather get to him sooner than later. That's why we've got these resources here. Local
residents say it's easy to get lost in the area as it's extremely dense bush with lots of tracks and not many signposts.
It's very dry given the time of year, and some of the walkers and volunteers have encountered slippery slopes, and also there's been a fair few snakes sighted.
And a lot of dead ends too. Yeah. And pretty steep paths and stuff. Yeah. A lot of rocks as well, and can get in the way. Yeah.
Mr Kittle's loved ones have said this is extremely out of character.
Mr Kittle was a fit and an active man. He was a keen sailor. He would do work in the gym, and he would go on walks.
Joe, the search has scaled down for tonight, but it will start again in the morning. This will be the 4th night that he's been missing, Joe, but police are still holding hope of finding him alive.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much for that, Louise. Louise Hedger joining us there. A 58-year-old man accused of stabbing another male yesterday afternoon has fronted the Launceston Magistrates Court. Peter Ponting pleaded not guilty to the wounding charge, which police allege occurred on Lambert Street in Ravenswood and left a 59-year-old with minor injuries. Mr Ponting was granted bail today and will next appear in February. A 26-year-old Ravenswood man has also been charged with common assault in relation to the incident. A Launceston man has been charged after allegedly being involved in a 12-hour standoff with police on Saturday. Kane Richardson was set to front the Launceston Magistrates Court today via video link, but his defence lawyer told the court he was too unwell to appear, saying he had burns to the backs of his legs. Mr Richardson has been charged with threatening and resisting police, possession of a firearm and causing a fire with intent to injure property. The matter was adjourned, with Mr Richardson next expected to front court in December. The Supreme Court has delivered a blow to Tasmanian councils with a major judgment on the types of properties they can apply rates to. Aged accommodation provider Southern Cross Care had been arguing against a $500,000 rates bill, saying its properties should be classified as charitable. The full court agreeing in a decision likely to cost councils millions in the long term.
It's complexes like this that came under scrutiny from councils and the courts. They're described as independent living units and apartments for the aged. The owner, Southern Cross Care, says this use amounts to a charitable purpose, something councils didn't agree with.
We don't feel that independent living units for active, healthy retirees are a charitable purpose, and active, healthy retirees in their own homes have to pay rates, so we feel it is a matter of equity.
Central to the case, whether the land was owned and occupied for a charitable purpose, despite the residents using it as a home. One judge ruling, quite obviously, charitable accommodation must be lived in by someone other than the charity provider. Today, the full court unanimously agreeing, overturning a previous magistrates' court decision, finding the complexes are charitable and exempt from rates.
Councils understandably are very disappointed with the decision. We strongly believe as a sector this is a matter of equity.
This was a contentious case for Southern Cross Care and councils. Today's decision is said to be worth $14 million over 10 years, a loss councils will now have to manage.
It won't affect services directly, but any loss in revenue means that councils have to rethink how they prioritise services, the level of service they provide, when they renew assets.
Southern Cross Care will now have $500,000 worth of rates refunded and its legal costs paid. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
The family of much-loved Pellegrini's cafe owner has accepted the offer of a state funeral after he was killed in the Burke Street attack. A security guard who was stabbed by the terrorist is out of hospital as a second survivor speaks about the horror that unfolded on Friday.
3 days of mourning one of Melbourne's most loved citizens won't be enough. The grief and the lingering disbelief over the killing of Sisto Malaspina has been felt across the community. Parents have tried to explain to their children what Sisto stood for and made him so very special.
It's very sad seeing it and seeing all the love for this man that everyone knew. It gives me a sense of, I guess, a little bit of closure.
This vision of the 74-year-old will be treasured. He gave his last recorded interview to a university student 2 weeks before his death.
I enjoy what I do. As people say, oh, I didn't choose, I was chosen.
His family releasing a statement this afternoon thanking the public for their support. To the people of Melbourne, your heartfelt tributes have shown us why our dad loved this great city so much. He was a distinctly recognisable figure in his colourful choice of clothing and his flamboyant personality. To us, he was just a beautiful man, a loving husband and a doting father. Welcome good news has come in the recoveries of 2 men who were stabbed during the atrocity on Burke Street. A 26-year-old security guard has been discharged from hospital, while Tasmanian Rodney Patterson is in a stable condition.
We're going to need that support, me and my kids and I, ongoing, because I'm afraid to say what we've just been through is not normal, and I'm not sure what the new normal looks like.
Victoria Police is backing its approach to dealing with those on the terror watch list.
It's just that case of you don't have, it's never going to be practical to cover everyone unless we know that there's some developing threat, then obviously it's different.
The Prime Minister continuing to put more onus on Islamic leaders.
Imams and others who are the leaders in their religious communities need to be looking carefully about who's coming into their community, who's talking to their kids.
And an accountant has been appointed to oversee the more than $100,000 raised in support of Michael Rogers, otherwise known as Trolley Man.
It'll go into trust fund with them, into one of their trust accounts, and then they'll work with Michael and work out the best way to deliver that money to him.
As we've just heard, Tasmanian Rod Patterson is still recovering in the Alfred Hospital after he was attacked trying to help. I'm joined now by Rachel Williams, who spoke with him earlier today. Rachel, how is Rod coping after this ordeal?
Jo, I think the enormity of the situation has really sunk in. Rod was, of course, the first on the scene. He doesn't want to talk about the incident itself yet, as it is too raw still. But his training as a firefighter more than 2 decades ago kicked in when he heard the explosion and immediately went to assist. Rod received wounds to his head and requires ongoing treatment both physically and mentally.
I had surgery Friday night and I'll be going back into surgery sometime this week, I believe. Having 4 sessions of psychology a day, and it will be ongoing, so I'm not sure what it looks like. I want to come home.
He says the support he's received has been a great comfort.
It's been overwhelming, to be honest, the love and support that I've been receiving all around Australia, but especially from Tasmania, from people who do know me, people who think they know me, and people who've got no idea who I am.
Jo, we can only hope Rod does make a full recovery after this terrible ordeal.
Yeah, we certainly do. Thank you very much for that, Rachel. Local tourism operators have lashed out at a proposal to slug tourists with a new visitor tax. Under the plan, the extra money would be spent on infrastructure upgrades to support Tasmania's tourism boom. But the idea has already been met with mixed reviews.
A well-known face in Tasmanian tourism, Rob Pennicott says a new idea to force Hobart visitors to pay an extra tax would be detrimental.
We pay thousands, if not millions of dollars in various taxes, and I think that's the way the revenue should go back to the economy. I think it's very detrimental to actually target tourists.
Hobart's newly elected Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds has suggested introducing a tourist levy to make extra money from the booming market. She declined to speak on camera today, but said funds would be spent upgrading the city's tourism infrastructure.
The government doesn't believe that we should be taxing certain industries when actually every single Tasmanian is benefiting from a growing and vibrant tourist industry.
Labor suggested extra money could instead be made if national park fees were changed to cost less for locals but more for tourists.
That would assist the government increase its revenue from tourists coming to this state without disadvantaging locals and without disadvantaging or disincentivising tourists visiting Tasmania at all.
But the Greens supported a statewide international visitor levy, saying Tasmania was wasting an opportunity.
We laid out the case for a 10% on the cost of a bed for a night, visitor levy, and we estimate this could raise between $30 and $40 million each year to go back into visitor and public infrastructure.
As tourism grows, the infrastructure has to grow as well, but there has to be a formula that's really good to get the money to do that infrastructure. And if we don't do the infrastructure, it will be very detrimental to tourism.
The peak tourism body said the idea was unfair and impossible to roll out. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
The state government has confirmed the locations set to benefit from a free pilot program providing preschool to 53-year-olds from next year. Glenorchy, Devonport, Kingborough, Derwent Valley and Launceston have been selected.
400 hours of free preschool education will be provided by the state government for eligible 3-year-olds.
But Labor says the program, which was announced as an election promise, still lacks detail.
And to date, he still hasn't been able to tell us what that model looks like. He's saying that there will be a trial, we don't know who's eligible, we don't know what will be physically run, and we don't seem to know when it will actually start.
Participating childcare centres have not been confirmed. The owners of a multi-million-dollar gin and whiskey distillery say they're concerned about the lack of skilled workers available in Tasmania. Adams Distillery will soon be open to the public, but fears remain the staff they need won't be found locally.
What started out as a backyard hobby has quickly poured these two onto the international stage.
Cheers. The first few products that we made, or the first few batches that we made, were received quite well, and we had people wanting to buy our product as independent bottlers. So we ended up making 1,500 litres in our first month.
They've also recently claimed a gold medal for this dry gin at the International Spirits Competition in Berlin, and are also about to launch a craft beer range. But there could be a problem. With only a few months to go until this expansion is complete, up to 10 skilled staff are still needed, prompting calls for a targeted training course.
We understand that you can't have a large course producing hundreds of students every year, but it could be something that could be attached to a pre-existing course, whether it's agriculture, science, viticulture, something like that.
Tasmania does not have a specific course for distillers to make sure we can train our own here. Given this industry is growing and is a key part of Tasmania's brand and reputation now, which is known for premium products, it seems a missed opportunity.
The state government says it's aware industries are facing a skills shortage.
We're always willing to engage with specific industries on their skill needs. That would include the whisky industry.
Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanian National Senator Steve Martin has undergone heart surgery. Sharing this picture, he paid tribute to the dedication and skill of Tasmania's health professionals. The Senator was admitted to the Royal Hobart Hospital last week for surgery to replace a heart valve. He said the operation was a success and is now recovering at his Devonport home. Mr Martin expects the recovery to take some time but says his office is running as normal. The government will soon start recruiting for 6 new paramedics to work in regional Tasmania in the hope it will take pressure off our hospitals. The Dodgers Ferry ambulance station is one of many to receive a boost in staff, but it could be some time before the paramedics are working on the ground. Over the next 5 years, paramedics will be rolled out at Wynyard, Bicheno, Deloraine and St Helens,
so that they can be better equipped with more paramedics who are qualified in their field and experienced, who can also provide support to that essential network of volunteers that we do have in our regional and country stations.
As a volunteer, I've been in situations where I've quickly exhausted my limited skills and knowledge, and I can hear a siren in the distance and breathed a sigh of relief.
The investment comes at the same time as the government continues to refuse to lift its 2% wages cap for ambulance staff. The 5-kilometre foot race is likely to return to next year's Launceston Cycling Festival, with the new edition being hailed a success. Organisers are planning to increase the number of entries next year after the inaugural event received overwhelming interest from runners. Matt Zegveld took out the title in a tight finish.
We thought we'd do it handicap style to try and make for a thrilling finish, and well, it was an absolute thriller. I mean, there was less than a second in it.
Spectator numbers were up on previous years. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. After a soft start, the Australian share market has finished higher, with the index bolstered by the financial sector. The ASX 200 index has risen by 19.5 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 72.18 US cents and 82.29 Japanese yen.
Well, fans voted with their feet in yesterday's one-day international in Hobart, with only 5,321 people watching the game. That's half the number which saw Australia play England in their ODI in January 2015, and well short of the venue's ODI record of 16,700, which was set when the Aussies faced England back in 2003. The TSLW is set for a major shake-up in 2019. After winning just one game last season, the Burnie Dockers are quitting the statewide league, while Lauderdale and North Launceston are now certain starters for next year's competition.
Bombers from the north and south of the state are flying up to the State League. Lauderdale and North Launceston earning a spot in the now 6-team competition.
There's been whispers of us moving into TSL, and we've had a lot of interest from players that have already been playing and from people that have never played footy.
Lauderdale will graduate from the SFL, bringing some 30 registered players with it.
And a lot of them are partners, family members of our senior men. So it's a bit of a family effort really in many ways.
The competition will soon mirror the Men's League, with North Hobart set to add its own women's team in 2020.
They just felt that they needed a little bit more extra time to get their programs and structures right around their female teams.
But much like the Men's League, the Northwest is no longer in the picture, with Burnie bowing out of the competition only 2 years after winning the premiership. AFL Tas says it will work with the region's talent manager to help find other pathways for top players. One idea is to hold an exhibition game with players from the Northwest later in the season.
So some sort of idea around an all-stars academy from that part of the state and finding them a game so they feel like they can compete against the highest level and test themselves.
The Dockers are likely to join a regional league.
Good evening. 24 degrees today, the state's top for Hobart. Launceston reached a top of 21, 17 in Burnie with 18 degrees for Devonport. 24 also for Campania today, 23 on Flinders Island, 23 degrees also for Fingal, Grove, Bushy Park and Ouse. 22 the top at Scotts Peak, 21 for Medina with Scottsdale and Strawn reaching 20 degrees. On the charts, high cloud visible on the charts. Moving across the state from the northwest, a broad area of mid to high cloud lies across southeastern states. Low cloud sits over the southern parts of WA with patchy cumulus scattered down the east coast of Australia. Tomorrow a trough moves across Tasmania and Victoria, followed by a cold front which is expected to cross the state on Wednesday. A ridge of high pressure extends over southern WA with troughs situated across the remainder. On the waters locally, north to northeasterly winds 10 to 20 knots, reaching 20 to 30 about the west early on and shifting westerly about the north, the west and the south later. Seas mostly 2 metres up to 3 about the west and the south. There's a strong wind warning current for southern and western coastal waters and a small craft wind alert for the Central Lakes. A hint of summer tomorrow for the south, 28 in Hobart, 24 for Adventure Bay, 23 at Tarraleah, cloudy throughout. Cloudy and hot in the north, 25 in Launceston, 20 for Devonport, 22 in Bridport. 20 degrees for Burnie, a cloudy day there, 24 at Strawn, possible showers with 21 for Marrawar, and on the east coast 26 at St Helens, 27 degrees for Swansea and Whitemark, and the UV is very high right around the state. Showers for the south on Wednesday, extending west and east later. Early showers easing and contracting to the west on Thursday, with inland showers for Friday, cloudy conditions elsewhere. Around Australia tomorrow, 25 degrees in Perth, 28 and showers for Melbourne, 31 in Cairns and Canberra, 25 for Sydney, with a sunny 33 for Broome and showers and 27 for Adelaide. And a few clouds about this evening, 16 for Hobart, Launceston 19 and 18 in Devonport. Joe, good to see Big Murph's left the sunshine for you.
Yes, it is good to see, Sam. Lovely to have you for the next couple of weeks. Makes my life very peaceful. That's all from the news team for now. We'll see you a little later. Bye-bye.